Sorry about that. It's hot and I've been drinking a lot of water. Hey there, hi there, ho there. Welcome back. So last year we talked about Paleozoic Earth history, kind of broken up by sequences and orogenic events. Here we're talking about life history. I never want to do this. There we go. Okay, so remember this is the time frame we're talking about. So the Paleozoic span from about 541 million years ago to around 252 million years ago, 251.9 if you want to be precise. Now in this unit, we will kind of break it down by periods and go period by period. So this is what we're going to cover and kind of finish up. So unit 11 and 12 is going to cover the Mesozoic era Earth and life history respectively, and then 13 and 14 will cover the Cenozoic era Earth and life history respectively. The Paleozoic era, like the definition of the word, what the word means, is literally old life. It itself, is divided up into 7 periods, starting from the Cambrian, then the Ordovician, Silurian, Devonian, Carboniferous, and Permian. The Carboniferous is split into 2 different periods, Mississippian, Pennsylvanian, depending on where you live at. You might see some things moving around in the background. Those are, that was a black cat. During the Paleozoic era is really a diversification of life in the ocean and then eventually moving on to land. Remember, towards the end of the Proterozoic eon, the Ediacaran fauna, we started to get some soft-bodied stuff, finally, some bigger, things we could actually see. They're still small, but, these things floating around the ocean. But in the Paleozoic era, really diversifying of life, really in the ocean, and then eventually that life moving on to land, plants and animals. The era of the Paleozoic era itself began with a spectacular burst of new life called the Cambrian explosion. And then from there, it just kind of let loose the diversification of animals, plants, not only in the ocean, but on land as well. So we'll cover these periods. So the Cambrian, we start to get the first fish, for example. The Silurian, the first kind of vascular plants that can hold their structure on land. The Devonian, we start to get amphibians. And the Carboniferous, which is split up into the Mississippian and Pennsylvania. We start to get reptiles. Hell, we start to get trees for the first time. So we'll go through each of these to talk about the life that we find in each of those. Also in the Paleozoic, there's actually 3 major extinction events, and we'll talk about all of those. In fact, the Paleozoic era itself ended with the biggest mass extinction the world has ever seen. It was phenomenal. So we'll talk about that once we get to the Permian period. So some of these we'll talk about. We'll talk about the Ordovician Silurian extinction that happened, guess what, on the boundary between the Ordovician and the Silurian. We'll talk about the late Devonian extinction, which kind of happened right towards the end of the Devonian, not on the boundary, but right towards the end. And then the Permian Triassic extinction. This was the biggest extinction the world has ever seen. Remember that this time during the Paleozoic, as far as Earth is concerned, there was a number of advances and retreats of shallow seas, transgressions and regressions, as well as mountain building events. So all of that was going on, and so we'll frame life in the context of some of these events that we learned about in Unit 9. This is kind of how Earth looked like to start off the Paleozoic in the Cambrian, and this is what it ended like in the Permian, forming Pangea. We had, in the Cambrian, we had the breakup of Pannotia that occurred kind of back in the Proterozoic eon, so this is a little bit after the breakup of Pannotia, and we end the Paleozoic with Pangea. Again, what it looked like in the beginning, what it looked like at the end of the Paleozoic. Here's North America in the Cambrian at the beginning of the Paleozoic. Here's North America at the end. Little different. Alright, so let's go ahead and pause here. And then as we come back, we're going to take the 7 periods of the Paleozoic era, and we'll take a section of video for each, kind of just highlight some of the life events that occurred during that time period. So let's go ahead and pause here, and I'll see you back here in just a second.